We've all heard it. Silence is golden, right? But is it in the context of a marriage? Well, it can be. I mean, it's just like anything else. It can be weaponized, but is it going to be weaponized for good or for bad? Well, some of that depends on who's holding it and for what purpose. And today we're going to unpack the ways that silence shouldn't be used in marriage, the places that it should be used in marriage, and how you can do that to make sure that it helps your marriage. And in fact, it may revolutionize that. First off, I want to reassure you, because we've heard so many, stories, tales about use of the silent treatment as a abusive or harmful thing. I'm not suggesting that we start to deploy narcissistic traits, nor am I giving any encouragement to those among us who are avoidant attachment disorder folks, pulling away, shutting down, not speaking to someone as a form of manipulation or control is the number one time we do not want to use silence. It shouldn't be withheld. Like, communication and connection is absolutely vital to that. And part of the reason that it hurts so much, for instance, when narcissists start to withhold communications, it's a form of freezing out or shunning. And some people will use shunning specifically to exert that like societal pressure to conform behavior. And anyone who's ever been on the receiving end of the silent treatment will tell you it's one of the most painful things that people can suffer. Kids who suffer that end up carrying that into adulthood. Adults who suffer that end up carrying that into their counselors or divorce attorneys' offices. This is not the time and place that we want to deploy silence. However, there are several constructive places where silence is in fact, very, very useful. The first one, since we've been talking about narcissist, okay, and a lot of people worry about abuse. What if there's an abusive situation, and when can I, use silence to help me with that? Well, number one, it's called the gray rock. It's a gray rock approach to a narcissist. So it's essentially turning in a healthy way the narcissist's use of silence as a means of peacemaking. And that's where if a narcissist or another toxic individual is dysregulated, they're being abusive, they're saying negative things to you, you respond to them like a gray rock. I mean, think about it. If I have a gray rock in my hand and I say, hey, you're a so-and-so and you shouldn't do this and why didn't you do that? What's the gray rock going to say to me? Nada. It's not going to say a darn thing. It's just going to sit there. And that is exactly the gray rock tactic in dealing with toxic individuals. Had a gal in my office. Believe it or not, sometimes we have some crazy, even irate people that call up there. Anyway, she answers the phone, and it's this fellow who's just upset. He's upset about his divorce. He's upset about having to pay for his divorce. He's upset about the stars and the moon and the sun, and he got up off the wrong side of the bed, and his Captain Crunch was soggy, and he took it out on the girl that answered the phone at my law firm. Well, because we've learned about the gray rock theory, she just sat there and she listened. Literally just listened to the man until he ran himself out of steam. It's effective, friends. Sometimes, what are we going to say to make it better? Oh no, your Captain Crunch tastes better, less soggy. Oh no, it's a good thing that you're getting divorced. Well, it's probably a good thing is getting divorced from the other person's perspective, the way he acts. You know what I'm saying? But it's a very appropriate and effective mechanism that you can use. And I would say use it with anybody who's just lost their ever-loving mind. There's strength in silence just sitting there. That allows us also to attend to our own state of regulation. We can thank, we can pray, we get out of there pretty quickly. They run out of steam quick, right? But deploy that absolutely appropriate response to somebody who's lost their mind is just to sit there and let them talk. Secondly, if you're dealing in a situation where you're in a conflict, like with your spouse in particular, and there's two different ways I'm going to have you come at this. I'm going to throw some stereotypes out there. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It is what it is. I'm making generalizations. If you don't fit snugly into it, that's okay. You just act like I said your gender versus the gender I said and apply it to you, and vice versa with your spouse. It's fine. It's okay. It's going to be all right. People. All people want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. They want to feel safe. We all know this. I think we can all agree to that. Nobody wants the opposite of that, right? But how that tends to manifest in situations for women is they want to talk and they want to get it all out. They want to have somebody sitting there with them basically to bear witness to whatever they're expressing, to be able to essentially contain that. Men, on the other hand, want to help. They want to fix. They want to protect. So when two people, or at least in my household, and I'm going to just figure on that. I'm not trying to step into your living room. It's my living room. I'm just trying to step into your living room, tell you all about yourself. So I'll sit here in my living room and tell you about myself, right? I know at least in my household, sometimes, I've had a long day. Like, hey, you wouldn't believe Critter John that called the law firm today, acting this and this and way, talking, to our very best girl in the most awful of ways and da-da-da-da-da. Well, my husband's a fixer, right? And so the temptation is there. While I'm talking probably 2 sentences in, and I got some words I want to get out here, friends. I got some things I want to express, and I can't, as a law firm owner, stomp all over my firm, talking about how I feel about the way this guy interacted with us and mulling through what we're going to do about this guy, if we're going to let him stay on in the firm, if we are, how we set boundaries, all these things. He's the one that I go to talk about these things, and I just need to say it. Well, my husband, who has never owned a law firm, although he's got lots of experience with lots of things, stops me at sentence and a half and start solving my problem, it's going to be a problem. That in and of itself is going to be a problem because I'm not going to feel heard. I'm not going to feel understood. And if I push back and he feels unappreciated, it's off to the races. I'm trying to talk. He's not trying to listen. I'm trying to help him shut up so I can do what I'm wanting to do. And, he's feeling unappreciated and doesn't want to listen to me anymore. And what could have been something very helpful, something very relational for both of us turns into a total disaster. This didn't really happen with my husband the other day. He's a real champ. And so what did happen is I started to talk to him, and he's gotten real super smart about this kind of stuff. We're about 30 years in. So any of you that are newer in there, make notes, guys. This is a real tip and trick if you got someone who's a verbal processor, I'll say it that way. But he sat there and just let me talk, kind of like a gray rock, except he was engaged. You know what I mean? And he sat there, he was nodding, he was understanding, and he just at appropriate times said, wow, that's hard. Whoa, that's really, dang. And then at the end, he asked, is there anything I can do to help? But he was mostly silent. He let me talk. And I'm going to tell you, at the end, there really wasn't anything he could do to help because he'd already done it. He'd already done exactly what I needed him to do, which is to see me, hear me, come alongside me, be in relationship with me. Okay? Now, let's flip that scenario. Let's imagine that we started spinning up, right? Well, here's a trick that I've learned myself, right? Well, when I'm not feeling seen or heard, and I can tell that he's trying to help, but he's just not kind of getting it, you know what I can do that really helps? I can shut the heck up. That's what. And, some people may feel a little offended by that idea. Well, like, hey, you're trying to talk. He's not listening. So what? How's he going to understand if you don't keep talking? You know what? That's a question I had for a really long time, which is why I kept going around and around, trying the same thing, getting the same exact result. If my husband is not able to hear, he's not able to connect at that time. If I'm quiet, and I don't mean shut down, don't talk to him anymore, but like if I've explained myself one time, hey, I'm wanting to express myself to you. I just want to tell you about this situation. I'm really not needing you to fix it for me. And he doubles down on the fixing. You know what? I just let him give me his advice. And I note it. Just like lots of unsolicited advice I get from opposing counsel sometimes in cases. Oh, okay. Oh, I should do that. Is that how you'd run my case instead of how I'm doing it? Noted. Circle file. Who cares? I got to understand. He's a human being. He's not always going to show up 100%. I don't. You know what I mean? And, If I can hush up, and this was a hard-fought lesson for me, to be quite frank with you. I'm not sure I shared this before, but I'm going to share it because it's very, very important. And this was just a lesson I learned, from God. As I came up as a kid, I learned that I had to keep coming at problems. Like, it was really up to me to charge in, explain, talk, persuade is maybe why I turned out to be an attorney. I don't know. But, just not let it go. It's like I had one tool, that was a hammer, and that hammer was my voice. And I just kept up at it. And, I beat a lot of people into submission with my words over the course of time, but it just plain wasn't working with my husband. I mean, I could literally see my extremely well-educated, extraordinarily articulate, technically oriented husband go wordless because he was completely flooded by just the sheer volume of things I was saying to him. And all I really wanted with him was the acknowledgement of what I was saying so that we could connect. But when we get into that pattern, there has got to be somebody that steps off the merry-go-round. In one of these interactions that I was having, it just dawned on me that it's not that he doesn't want to listen. It isn't that he doesn't want to see me. It isn't that he doesn't want to provide safety. It's that he can't. He can't. There's some times that we just have to throw our partner a lifeline. If you see somebody's drowning, especially if you're the one that's been pushing them under, come on, ease up, pull them out of the pool, at least throw them, the ducky ring so they can catch a breath. And that in and of itself is transformative. If it's not the right time to talk, you have to give one another permission to take that break. Now, you want to always come back, press in to the conversation. We don't want to ever avoid conflict. We want to resolve conflict. And the only way we can do that, honestly, is by talking. Women, we have to be willing to talk in a modulated way, that other people can receive. If this doesn't apply to you as a woman, that's fine. It's okay. Men, and also women, if that happens to be you, you need to be willing to come to the table and use your words. I tease this one attorney that I have. Sometimes if you meet with him in the afternoon, he's used up all his allocation for words all day. I don't know what he does at the house, but I get it. There are just some of us that are more talkative and less talkative. Anyway, let me just encourage you that the appropriate use of a well-placed silence, just taking that beat. Sometimes it can be a short beat. Other times it's going to have to be a break. Can be transformative in your marriage and your relationships in general. But the one thing I do want to say to you before we take off is what I want to say to everybody. If you've only interacted with me one time, I want you to take away from our conversation that God loves you. God loves us. And he came to this world as a man, Jesus, to make sure that we could be in relationship with him and with one another. And if you haven't met Jesus yourself, it's as simple as just sending up a little prayer, have a little talk with him. It really is. Hey, Jesus, are you there? Are you real? Introduce yourself to me. I said that prayer, and I'd like to invite you to do that too. And for the rest of you, we'll see you next time. Like, share, and subscribe.